Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk.
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
Broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC Radio. I am Doug Brown. I'm your host, and I'm very excited. We have two of my favorite companies on the line today. We have Citrix, and this is a Citrix Ready podcast, so they brought in one of their partners and one of a company I was introduced to many years ago by a friend of mine, and it was one of those such a disruptive a solution that I did not get it at first. I will admit it, but that's always the sign of a great technology, and the company is called Nutanix. And nowadays we all get it, but again, that's the sign of a great technology, is after a while it's a no-brainer, but at first you're like scratching your head, thinking to yourself, what am I missing? And then it dawns on you, this is really amazing technology, and this solves real problems. So I'm really excited because the two have a great marriage, a great relationship of what else do I say? So let's talk about that. So we brought on Upasna, who's one of the people over at Nutanix responsible for working with Citrix, and a gentleman named Chris, who is the equivalent at Citrix, and we're going to talk about that relationship, what's new, the integration between Citrix Cloud and Nutanix, and much more. So with no further ado, let's just dive into my interview with Nutanix and Citrix. Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'm looking forward to this. I have a soft place in my heart for Nutanix. So I was introduced to you guys way back in the early days by a couple friends of mine that went over there that said, Doug, do you understand what we're doing? And my response was, anytime I see something really great, no, I don't. Please explain it to me. So, and then once you get it, you're like, ooh, that makes sense. But I think Nutanix has been around for a while, so I think we've all sort of got it by now. It's become a mainstream. It's no longer what I would call, I guess, crazy disruptive, right, in the best of ways. So anyway, I get ahead of myself. So as always, let's do the introduction. So we'll go around the horn. We have a couple folks on the line. So Chris, let's take you first. Can you tell us who you are and what do you do over at Citrix?
Sure. Hey, guys. My name is Chris Edwards. I'm in product marketing. So I'm an evangelist for XenApp, XenDesktop, and XenServer. And my background is mostly in IT. So I've done some small business IT consulting. I've done some hosting with service providers, and I've done some enterprise IT. And I actually used to work in the IT department at Citrix.
Okay, Upasna, can you tell us who you are and what do you do over at Nutanix?
Absolutely, Doug. So just like Chris, I'm a product marketing manager as well, and I'm responsible for driving our pipeline and revenue for various areas such as desktop and application virtualization, and also for our data center modernization solutions. So I've been with Nutanix for close to 2 years now.
Well, very cool, very cool. So let's get into this thing. So real quick, Upasna, for those who might not know who Nutanix is, can you just give us the 40,000-foot overview of what you guys are trying to accomplish?
Absolutely. So think of Nutanix as the Nutanix Enterprise Cloud company. We combine the agility and the simplicity of the public cloud with the security and control you need in a private cloud. And as a lot of you might be familiar, it's built on the industry's leading hyperconverged infrastructure technology, which means that it integrates compute, storage, virtualization, networking into one turnkey solution that can be used to run nearly any application.
Very cool, very cool. What's interesting about the message sort of changes. The product somewhat stays the same. You get a lot better. You add a lot of features. You fine tune it, but that messaging changed. So I was sort of curious on what the latest Nutanix messaging is. And like I said, it's one of my favorites. So That being said, Chris, I'd love to throw at you. You had mentioned you're an IT guy, right? You know, you live the wonderful life of solving people's problems that aren't always happy. So can you maybe tell us some of I would love to just dive down that path for a second and maybe go into some of the mistakes you've seen or some stories of some mistakes you've seen the companies made when they're setting up storage. You have anything like that?
Yep. Yeah, of course. And, it makes a lot of sense how Nutanix simplifies the infrastructure and the new challenges that brought for VDI. So in the past, I've spent quite a number of years in IT. I was in IT for 12 plus years. And I remember back when, XenApp or presentation server deployments were done on physical hosts, right? So today that sounds like a very foreign concept of installing a server OS directly on the hardware. But virtualization, really came in and radically changed the infrastructure landscape. And now everything is virtual. So, and this new landscape kind of brought new challenges. So I remember one of my first big XenApp deployments. This was about 2,000 users, globally dispersed, and the decision makers over the budget, they came in and they decided, no shared storage. I fought for it, but they said it was too complicated and it was too costly, and they ordered a bunch of what they called pizza boxes, right? Those one-use servers. Right. And this project was going from presentation server 4.5, all on physical hardware, to XenApp 6, all virtual. So I did the deployment, and then after I left, I heard from some people that they were having some challenges, and they hired some consultants to come in and because their hosts are running out of space, and their consultants came in and told them that they needed shared storage, which of course I had already told them. And I remember another environment, very small setup, one rack in a data center. This was a consulting company that was hosting customers' apps and desktops and like their entire IT environments. And I did some side consulting work for them, and they asked me to come in and connect iSCSI SAN to a hyperbrowser cluster. And I'm like, okay, well, no problem. This is actually just a couple of clicks. And they're like, okay, well, we already have the SAN, racked and plugged in. I'm like, well, you should really segregate, the SAN traffic. And they're like, oh, just do it, right? And on that visit, I also upgraded their Citrix Secure Gateway. So a week or two later, they call me back because now remote connections are dropping, right? And they asked me to dig into it. And they were kind of blaming the CSG upgrade. So I actually had to go into the data center, prove to them that actually all of the traffic in their rack was dropping, and it's because the SAN was overloading the switch. Long story short, as virtualization was introduced, the technology landscape changed and became more complicated, and companies didn't really have the skill set to handle these virtual environments. The infrastructure requirements became more complicated because now you needed shared storage, that storage networking, the virtualization platform, in addition to the Citrix infrastructure. So these VDI deployments became much more complicated, which is the beauty of what Nutanix does, is how they really simplify the infrastructure stack.
You got it. No, I totally agree about that. Well, why do you think customers make that mistake? Do you still see that mistake today? Or was that sort of like, hey, this is all new. We don't know what we're doing. And that type, so they make, what now we see as simple mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, because in my experience, I think it was about 2008, 2009 when virtualization really started becoming mainstream, and everybody was kind of buying into virtualization, kind of like now how they're buying into cloud.
Sure.
So that's kind of what was so visionary about Nutanix, is that they were founded back in 2009, right as virtualization was taken off. So they understood the challenges that companies were having with these virtual deployments. So for XenApp deployments, that would have traditionally been on physical servers. And even when XenApp moved to virtualization, some companies, they kind of could get away with doing these real simple virtual environments with these standalone servers, right? Because if a company had, 100 XenApp servers, but now maybe they're moving to VDI, and those 100 XenApp servers were serving up maybe 5,000 users. Now with VDI, you need 5,000 virtual desktops. So when you go to VDI, you can't sort of get by with that standalone virtual environment that you had before. You need a full-blown enterprise virtual infrastructure.
Yeah, you got it. Does hybrid cloud address that? I mean, how does hybrid cloud address those mistakes?
So, Upasna, do you want to jump in and take this one, or?
Sure, I can talk a little bit more about hybrid cloud VDI. Now it definitely addresses some aspects of that, but really, why we're looking at hybrid cloud VDI today is because a lot of our customers have found that, while virtualization has its advantages, they're still not able to keep pace with the way public clouds such as AWS provide their services, and they want a similar experience. They want the simplicity, they want the agility, they want the pay-as-you-go economics. They don't want to worry about the underlying infrastructure anymore. They don't want to get involved with complicated planning. They do not want to run into situations where they're under-provisioned and all of a sudden they're not able to support their users, that performance. So they don't want to run into these situations. But at the same time, what they also want to not happen is that their performance should be compromised. A lot of performance-sensitive applications, examples where users need exceptional experience, those kind of applications cannot always be run on cloud because the performance is not always guaranteed. So for those use cases in particular, where customers want the best of both worlds, where they want the best possible performance, but they still want to use it like a public cloud, they still want to scale or scale back based on the demand. For those use cases, in which now constitute majority of the use cases, something like hybrid cloud VDI makes a lot of sense, where your apps and desktops are still on-premise, running on an HCI cluster such as Nutanix, but the management plane might be offloaded to Citrix Cloud. So customers are looking to reap those benefits with a hybrid cloud VDI solution.
Makes sense. Chris, can you talk a bit about, the Nutanix solution? You laid out some of the problems. Boy, we wish we would have had Nutanix or a solution like that, back then, right? And that being said, can you talk a bit about how Nutanix addresses some of the issues you just sort of laid out?
Yeah, absolutely. So as this landscape really changed and, virtualization introduced these new challenges for companies and, they didn't have the headcount and they didn't have the skill set, Nutanix really simplifies the infrastructure stack by collapsing all this, all down compute, shared storage, plus virtualization just into one stack that you can buy from Nutanix that comes with a lot of the orchestration and automation and management plane. In addition to, the scalability that you get from Nutanix to scale up your environment as it grows with predictability and performance.
Yeah, and if I may just add, I think performance is a big requirement, a big aspect of why customers sometimes are a little bit scared of deploying VDI. Performance is a big requirement for a lot of our customers. And with Nutanix, the other features which ensure best possible performance for your virtual desktops in applications is features such as data localization. Your data is always close to the local VM and allows your read-write operations to be localized on, the same Nutanix node. All the Nutanix software, all the goodness runs in a controller VM called CVM, and this CVM on each node is constantly analyzing whether those input-output requests are being satisfied by the storage resources local on that node or from another node. So if there is a migration to another host for some reason, then the hot data automatically follows as well. So Nutanix has a lot of interesting concepts such as data localization, intelligent distributed data tiering so that your hot data is always in SSD and your cold data is in HDD, and a lot of other enterprise-grade features which allow you to give best possible performance even at scale.
That's excellent. And then in return, you give the best possible performance, you give the best possible user experience, and you sort of overcome some of those hurdles or all those hurdles that Chris talked about earlier, right? You got it. So, Chris, Citrix has a good old Zen app and Zen desktop service now. Can you talk a bit about that and, of course, how that fits into the Nutanix play?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, we have our traditional products like Zen App and Zen Desktop and Zen Mobile for on-prem. And these products, we've enabled them as cloud services, making them easier to consume. So think of Citrix Cloud not as a public cloud, but as a control plane that spans multiple services. And these services are readily available for you to consume. And in most cases, all you need to do is subscribe and activate them. So the real benefit to you is that the core infrastructure that you would typically have to install, manage, maintain, and upgrade yourself is now managed for you as a cloud service, right? So if you think about, Zen App and Zen Desktop traditionally, which obviously is a big part of our secure digital workspace, what does that really empower for customers? Why do they deploy Zen App and Zen Desktop? Well, if you think about what centralizing apps and desktops while providing secure remote access enables and it empowers, it empowers, how employees work and how businesses operate and expand. And, many, many customers use Zen App and Zen Desktop, and they really wouldn't be able to operate the way that they do on a global scale without Zen App and Zen Desktop. So what we've done is we've taken our traditional on-prem deployment and made it a cloud service. So now with the Citrix Cloud Zen App and Zen Desktop service, all of the infrastructure components are managed for you as a part of that service. So you have the same admin consoles that you're used to create your machine catalogs and your delivery groups, but now you no longer have to manage the infrastructure that handles like all of the imaging provisioning and access brokering. So you basically get to consume our leading app and desktop delivery platform as a service, and then you just choose where to deploy your server VDAs and your desktop VDAs. So there's no more big Zen App and Zen Desktop upgrade projects that are consuming, your weekends. You just occasionally have to upgrade the VDA and your desktop and server images, and you're always on the latest version of Zen App and Zen Desktop. And then in Citrix Cloud, we have this concept of resource locations where you install the cloud connectors to register the resource locations. And those are the locations where you deploy your VDAs, and they can be a mix of any public clouds, any hypervisors, multiple physical locations, or any mix and match of those.
And Chris, or maybe Upasna, both of you guys could probably answer this one. Can you talk a bit about the Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud? Where does that fit in?
We strongly believe in the value and the benefit that Citrix Zen App, Zen Desktop service brings to its customers. So Nutanix was very eager to work with Citrix on their Citrix Workspace Appliance program, which Chris just described. And Chris described the concept of resource location. And there are multiple steps, where you have to first download the Citrix Cloud connector, register your on-premise appliances in the resource location. So for Nutanix has always been about one-click design. For us, a design-first philosophy is very important because that's what is really critical to giving the customers the best possible experience. So with Citrix Cloud Service as well, we wanted to do exactly that. So Nutanix and Citrix have come together to build what is known as the Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud solution. And that's essentially a hybrid cloud VDI solution that allows you to deploy your Citrix Cloud stack in one single step onto your Nutanix clusters, which may run AHV, Nutanix's own hypervisor, or Citrix Den server as well. And what really happens as a part of this process is that Nutanix Prism, it automatically provisions Citrix Cloud Connector VMs, which means it'll now instantly connect your on-premise Nutanix HCI solution to the XenApp and XenDesktop service, and then it'll also register your Nutanix appliance as a XenApp and XenDesktop service resource location. What that will do is it'll recognize all the virtual applications and desktops hosted on the Nutanix appliance. So this is where Nutanix comes in to simplify those steps with that easy one-click integration, and it's as easy as going into the Nutanix Prism control and hitting the connect to the Citrix Cloud button. And that's where Nutanix brought in the value by simplifying the process of deploying the Citrix Cloud stack. And anybody who has the Nutanix's 5.5 and above version should be able to leverage this feature as long as they have Citrix Cloud licensing. And I do want to highlight that because Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud can use both Citrix Zen Server and Nutanix AHV hypervisors, which are free of cost hypervisors, and AHV comes embedded as a part of the Nutanix solution, so you save hundreds to thousands of dollars on licensing fees, which is typically associated with expensive hypervisors like, VMware and Hyper-V.
Awesome. Yeah. And to add to that, the one thing that I just want to make sure is clear is that the InstantOn for Citrix Cloud is a free feature that's just built into Prism with AOS 5.5 or later. So you don't actually go out and buy Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud. It's a feature that's baked directly into Prism with the button that says connect to Citrix Cloud. And, really it's all about simplicity. So if you look at, what Nutanix has done, and if you look at what we're doing with Citrix Cloud, there's many synergies kind of by default. It's already like a 2 + 2 = 5, right? And then once you add in that automated integration, we make it even simpler. Plus all the scalability that you get from Nutanix and that you get from Citrix Cloud, XenApp, and XenDesktop, as well as the cost-saving opportunities that Upasna brought up. And really, I think the key thing here is if a customer is going out there and wants to do this hybrid cloud VDI setup, they really want reassurance, right? They want the reassurance that from cloud service to on-prem infrastructure, you have a solution that's fully integrated and fully supported, right? And that's really what they get with the Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud integration and partnership that we have between Citrix and Nutanix.
I love it. One click. That's just, as you said, simple, right? I totally love it, and I guess that makes perfect sense. Citrix puts the control plane up in the cloud, and the workers sit on a Nutanix box or boxes, right? And you get the best performance and very much ease of administration, right?
I know we've been talking about Nutanix as an appliance, Nutanix as a box, but I want to make sure that our audience here knows that Nutanix can run on any server of their choice. We are a software company, and the Nutanix operating system will run not just on our appliance, but it'll also run on your IBMs, your HPs, your Cisco's, any standard commodity server. So Nutanix is 100% software, and we give you the flexibility and the freedom to run however you want to run Nutanix.
I love that you point that out because I think the power is in the software, right? We're in a world today of sort of, we're in a world today of buzzwords, and I'll throw another buzzword at you, and that is software defined. Right, and software defined is always is about the fact that we're decoupling, the bits from the hardware, and when we do that, we get that great flexibility that you just mentioned. Right, of course, Nutanix sells hardware, great solutions, but if that doesn't work, well, it's really the genius is not in the hardware you buy, right, or acquire. It's the software that you guys have created, and that gives us the benefits of everything you've talked about, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. The power's in the software. Anytime you see a solution that's tethered to a piece of hardware, you have to sort of think twice in 2018. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about the software. So that being said, Upasna, can you tell us more about, or maybe give us some success stories? Maybe give us an example of somebody who's deployed this solution and what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm still not allowed to, because we have a really great example, and it's going to be turned into a customer reference in a case study, but I think it's not public just yet, so I'm just going to leave out the name. But we have a really big airline company that has been evaluating this solution and has successfully deployed the solution and loves both Citrix and Nutanix. And it's funny, they actually, they were at Citrix Synergy a couple of years back. That's where they first came to know what Nutanix is all about. And they were really not that interested in Nutanix, but they just decided to stop by because they had time to kill. And as their IT director heard what Nutanix had to offer, they were like, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what we're looking for. It's too good to be true, so we probably need some more detailed discussion. So that's how that airline customer first came to know about Nutanix. And at that time, their existing infrastructure was complex. It did not provide them the agility that they needed to keep pace with the company growth. They needed a solution that was highly available, simpler to manage, and enabled really faster rollout of applications. They had a lot of outages on their legacy on-premise HP servers, and despite being completely sold on VMware solutions, they still had some issues, and they were not able to roll out applications at the pace at which they needed. And they felt that while VMware had a lot of bells and whistles, had a lot of features, but when it came to core capabilities, they still struggled. So at that point, they were looking for an infrastructure solution to improve the performance of their VDI deployments and roll out applications faster. Accommodating XenApp and XenDesktop users was one of their first use cases. Once they realized how easy it was to deploy XenApp, XenDesktop using Nutanix and also scale as needed, they were completely sold. When they first started, they started super small. They started with about just 60 users or something. And within a month's time frame, they were able to scale to about 300 users. And ever since that, they've been growing their environment rapidly, scaling by simply adding another node whenever needed. So they're a very happy customer right now. They're also running a lot of their other tier 1 applications on Nutanix, and they've also decided to try AHV as the underlying hypervisor. Once they got a demo, they realized that there's nothing that AHV cannot do that VMware has to offer, and they were able to save a lot of dollars on that they would typically spend on VMware licensing. So this was one very happy customer. And when Nutanix and Citrix worked together on their Citrix on the Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud solution, they were very eager to try that solution as well, and they were pleasantly surprised when the deployment time of their desktops was reduced further from days to even hours and minutes. So both Nutanix and Citrix XenApp and XenDesktop service have been instrumental in giving their end users the best possible performance. I don't know, Chris, if you're familiar with the case study, you want to add some more color?
I was just going to ask him, Chris, I imagine you know this. Can you maybe give some, some added viewpoint, and then, of course, from the Citrix Cloud perspective, how they were able to, solve the key problems too?
So this large airline, they are a Citrix Cloud customer, and they are deploying XenApp and XenDesktop service on Nutanix, and we're actually looking at scheduling them for a Citrix customer expert open discussion. It's kind of like a webinar that allows other customers to come in and ask questions. So hopefully very soon, you guys will be able to, ask them questions directly and, why they chose Citrix Cloud and all the benefits that they get from the XenApp and XenDesktop service.
Very cool. I hope that's my airline you're talking about. I know a lot about airplanes. So.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of love from not just our customers but partners as well, because it's a great solution. And frankly, deploying your VDI solutions in like an hour or 2 hours is unheard of. So it's a big win for our customers.
It is a big win for customers, and the thing about what Nutanix brings to market is so multifaceted, right? You have of course the performance improvements, the fact of how you guys are dealing with storage and able to serve up the bits and bytes in a very timely manner. But it's about this administration really, and the ease of use, and the it's sort of like with Citrix Cloud. Citrix is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone up here on the line. But Citrix is sort of streamlining and making simple the control plane, the management features of it, and taking away the complexity and the guesswork. And I think Nutanix did the same thing from the operating system point of view, right? Of deploying, of managing, of giving a quality user experience. And it's sort of like soup to nuts. We're simplifying and easeabilifying. I don't think that's a word, but I can do that. And everything through these, what I call modern technologies, right? For the longest time, we just put a piece of hardware, software on the hardware, and you had to manage that with all these different components. Nowadays, all those components are built in together, and when they're built in together using, the power of software defined, you get a great solution, right? That solves a lot of problems, not just one-off problems. I love it.
Completely agree. You know what, Doug? Everybody wants to mimic experiences that they have in their real life.
Thank you.
When I have everything on my iPhone, from my music to my phone, from my contacts to my, applications that I like to use, people want the same experience in their data centers. They're just used to that. And yes. I feel that's what Nutanix wants to achieve.
Yes, I love that you say that, because I say this, and I've been saying it for the longest time, is that, in IT, we all have our benchmarks, right? We'll talk about how many IOPS they serve up and things like that. But our users don't care about our IOPS. They don't even know what an IOP is, right? They have a benchmark too, and their benchmark is that, we deliver the same experience that they have at home. 15, 20 years ago, not everybody had a PC at home, or they didn't care about it, or maybe it wasn't as managed, or maybe it was slow. Today, they all have really nice machines at home. They have iPads, they have this experience that they're used to. And when they come to the office and they experience slow, chunky, problems, things don't work, they get mad about that, right? They will not wait, because they're not used to waiting in today's world, right? They're used to that great experience. And I've always said Citrix can deliver that if it's deployed properly. And I come from the old days in Citrix when it was more difficult to deploy that, or to achieve that, even if it was deployed properly, because the hardware wasn't there, right? The software wasn't there. And I'm not saying from all Citrix's fault, of course not. It's the entire ecosystem, soup to nuts, right? And this is what I love about what, companies like Nutanix brings, is that, it solves those problems. Citrix is solving those problems even better today, with maturity and age, right? And at the end of the day, we're able to give the user what IT is there to do, and that is a service that gives them a user experience that meets their expectation. So rant over, right? I love it.
Yep, absolutely agree. And another point to make about Citrix Cloud, XenApp, and XenDesktop service is that all of our leading user experience HDX technologies from the traditional on-prem products, you still get that if you're running the XenApp and XenDesktop service, right? It's the same performance. It just matters, where your VDAs are running, not where the delivery controllers are running.
You got it, which is the best of all possible worlds, because at this point, we don't want that stuff up in the cloud yet. Well, maybe we do. Maybe some companies do, right? SMBs. But for the enterprises, we're not ready for that yet, for many reasons.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when we look at most of our customers and what they're really looking for and asking for, they're slowly moving to the cloud. They're starting to adopt cloud services, but they still want to keep some or really most of their infrastructure on-prem, right? Yeah. So they really want this hybrid environment where they can leverage these cloud services that are easy to set up and easy to provision while still keeping their workloads on-prem behind their security layers.
You got it. And what Nutanix is bringing is a cloud, right? It's a cloud in a box that's on-prem. Forget that it's not sitting up in somebody else's data center, right? Because what is the cloud? It's somebody else's data center, right? It sits in our data center, the IT's data center, and they in return get to, get the best benefits from that because that's where the data should lie, right? I've always said the genius of Citrix back in the day was that put the app where the data was. And in return, that made extremely great user experience. I can open up my Excel spreadsheets in a second versus, 10 minutes of waiting for it to download via the VPN, right? And I think that we forget that when people start talking DAS. DAS is great, and I don't discount the future of DAS, but I think that we're going to get there via hybrid method, right? And and only be there once the data's there, right? And in the meantime, we want our data local because that's where it currently is, and we want it on boxes like Nutanix, which gives us the usability and the manageability that we require, right? Am I preaching the story? Have I achieved that level here?
Preaching to the choir.
I love it. So
you're hired.
I'm hired. That's great. I do. I love it. I love it.
You've already had Doug for some time. I think it's Nutanix's turn now.
Please. Do you have anything you want to add there?
No, I think this is exactly right. Nutanix, you're exactly right about Nutanix. Nutanix is cloud in a box. We know our customers want that experience, but they also want that experience where their data is, and that's exactly what Nutanix is all about. And let me add a few. I know you asked me at the beginning, so what's the latest messaging from Nutanix? And it just, as we're talking through this, it keeps coming back to me because Nutanix now it's all about freedom. Freedom is a strong word. When you have freedom to do whatever you want to do, you get the best possible outcome. So we want to give our customers freedom from all the complexity and the freedom to focus on what really matters the most. So Nutanix is now focusing on giving their customers and everybody else freedom to build not just data centers but cloud environments, which has all these features that we just talked about. It's software defined. It's extremely simple. It's extremely flexible. We want to give you the freedom to run any application at any scale, your Zen app, Zen desktop, and consolidate your environment. Run your other tier 1 applications as well. Take advantages of all the performance acceleration and the resiliency features that Nutanix has to offer. We want to give you the freedom to, use your cloud the way you want to use it. I don't know if you've heard, Nutanix has made a few acquisitions in the past, and we want to give you guys the complete cloud experience. And then what that would do is it'll give you the freedom to invent, instead of focusing on, just extinguishing fires, keeping the lights on. You take back time and you elevate the value of IT with Nutanix. You run all these modern workloads and just focus on those workloads and not on that infrastructure anymore. Yeah. And which finally gives you the freedom to play, because who wants to spend their week upgrading their infrastructure in the data center, right? It's summer, go out, reclaim your time, because you finally have the freedom to go do things that you really want to be doing instead of troubleshooting, problems in the data center. So just wanted to highlight how Nutanix really thinks about the customers and users in general.
Upasna, I love it. I just did 4 weeks on the road of running around doing keynotes on, how to build a better, remoting solution, VDI, Zen app, what have you, and what you just laid out is exactly what I laid out in the requirements. It needs this, and this, and I could have taken my slide and said, okay, you need this, and what your answer was, here's the answer. This is to me the software defined way. It's no longer about the hardware. It's about the freedom and the flexibility. I absolutely love it. I love that answer. This is what we can do today, right? This is the beauty of virtualization And there was an old CEO many years ago from a different company I won't mention that once said the beauty of virtualization is in the abstraction. And once you abstract things, then you can do anything with it, right? And I think that's what the benefit, or that anything is what you just said, right? That's their freedom. So, hey, Upasna, so since Nutanix came to market, there's been a lot of copycats. There's been other storage-centric solutions that say they solve these type of issues. Why is Nutanix still, all that in the bag of chips? Why would I care about what Nutanix is doing versus all these other guys out there?
That's a very interesting question, and I feel it all boils down to how Nutanix, what the end goal is. For Nutanix, the end goal is customer delight. We really want to eliminate all the complexity that the customer has to deal with, and it's not just by giving our customers access to this software-defined data center. It's also just simplifying all the day-to-day management activities, all the ongoing operations and the maintenance that our customers and users have to do. One example is, and I don't want to really talk a lot about the other competing vendors, but just if right now you have a separate management plane for your hypervisor, you have a separate management plane to manage your cloud operations. You have a separate management plane for your storage operations. You have a separate management plane for your data protection and disaster recovery. So despite the fact that some of these vendors have perhaps, combined storage and compute, they still haven't been able to solve this classic problem of eliminating the silos across the entire life cycle of that infrastructure. And that's what Nutanix wants to do. It's not just about, putting together compute and storage. It's just thinking about the entire experience in a more holistic way. What do data center operations today look like? It starts with evaluating solutions, purchasing these different multiple solutions, something for storage, something for management, something for hypervisor, something for data protection. Nutanix just wants to eliminate all of that. It really wants to give you everything in a box, and it's been so successful at doing that. That's why our customers keep coming back to us. Nutanix, most of our business comes from repeat customers. And another thing to note is Nutanix has an NPS score of 92. So for people who don't know what NPS is, it's Net Promoter Score, and it's a way to measure, how happy the customers are with the particular vendor. And now in an industry like ours, the highest NPS score used to be 60, 70, and these are your top tier companies. So when a company like Nutanix comes, which is brand new and has been able to sustain that Net Promoter Score of 90 plus for the past 4 or 5 years, it gets you thinking that obviously this company places customers at the pinnacle of all its strategy. And I guess that's what makes Nutanix so different, because we care about our customers. We care about giving them the best possible user experience so much that it shows in our product strategy. It's not just about consolidating and eliminating silos. It's just, making sure that they have the easiest possible way of doing things, which really should not be complicated.
Yeah, and I'll just, I'll add to that and just note that this year, Nutanix was the leader and the leading visionary for Gartner's Magic Quadrant for Hyperconverged Infrastructure in 2018. And a couple of quotes directly from the report, because I have it pulled up right now, and this is coming from Gartner. Highly innovative and scalable architecture that is generationally advanced compared with most rivals. Highly modular design allows easy adoption of server and storage resources. Impressive client reference list across many verticals and geographies. So everything that Upasna is saying about, what Nutanix has done and what they're doing, it's obviously paid off, because this year they made it as the leader in the Magic Quadrant for HCI from Gartner.
That's awesome, Chris. Thank you for sharing. I should have done that, but I completely forgot about the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Well, we're extremely proud. Thank you.
Well, I was bragging for you, so you didn't have to, get caught humble bragging.
Well, Upasna, you sort of had me in basically of all of IT happy when you said we no longer need silos and mini management planes. I'm an engineer by training. I've been doing the ABCC and Agile for many years now, right? But I'm still an engineer by training. So the multiple management consoles and the multiple silos is what I would like to see eliminated. And you guys just killed that. So, as far as I'm concerned, you said I was hired earlier. Now you're hired, right? So that's the piece I love the most. So, guys, let's go ahead and we've chatted for a long time, and I love this conversation. I really do. But at the same time, we probably should start wrapping this up. So we just had Synergy a few weeks back. Can you talk maybe about some of the, any highlights from Synergy? And then, of course, what do we have planned for the two companies moving forward? And so I'll throw that at Chris first, and then we'll end up with Upasna closing it up. Sound good?
Yeah, so of course we had Synergy and Nutanix Next happening at the same time. I didn't get to go to Next. I was at Synergy. It was a fantastic event, all about the future of work. And I think people are really starting to see the vision that we have for the future of the workspace and really tying together all of your apps, whether they're SaaS apps, on-prem traditional apps, or mobile apps, and then really enabling that and simplifying that with our cloud services. And I had the opportunity to present with Upasna at Synergy in their booth, as well as the Citrix Experience Center Theater. And then Upasna was in such high demand that she actually attended both Synergy and .next within the same week.
Oh, my Lord. I can't.
It was crazy that we had the two events the same week. And the unfortunate part was, I think last year I got a little bit sick as well. So it started off super strong, but by the end of the week I was exhausted. But the two events were, I have to say, they were great. I had such a wonderful time at Citrix Synergy. Citrix is a wonderful host, I have to say, and they went all out with preparing for the event, and I absolutely loved the event. And, Chris presented at our booth, and customers, came over to our booth, and they kept asking us, Nutanix and Citrix, they work so well together. What's next for us, And a lot of them did not know about the Nutanix InstantOn for Citrix Cloud solution. So when they heard about the solution, they were extremely thrilled and happy that Nutanix and Citrix have sort of come together to produce something which is as synergistic. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll still go ahead because it's not you, Chris. Chris and I have this kind of running joke that Citrix and Nutanix are kind of like friends with benefits because we really bring so many benefits to our customers. They love us. And right now we're just excited about this continued push towards a more elegant yet simpler customer experience. And we look forward to redefining this EUC space jointly with Citrix. We did that with, InstantOn for Citrix Cloud. It's the first step. And as this transition to a more cloudified world, if I may say that, happens, Nutanix and Citrix are right there. We want to make sure that everything that we stand for, best possible performance, best possible user experience, and maximum return on your investment, we want to keep, we want to give those benefits to our customers as we come up with, our future integrations.
That's great. That's great. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and share with us what's new and what you guys are doing. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the integration between the two. One click. That's what more can you ask for? Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, well, let's call it an episode. Thanks again, guys. Okay, so that concludes another successful episode of DABCC Radio. As always, I want to thank my guests today, Chris and Upasna. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks many thanks to Citrix Ready for making these podcasts happy, the Citrix Ready ones. I love these things, and it's always fun to chat with companies like Nutanix and share that information with you. So I hope you guys like the show, because most important is you, the listener. Without that, of course, we just talk to ourselves, and nobody wants to do that. So if you like the episode, please tell a friend. That's how we grow. Head over to www.dabcc.com for the latest and greatest cloud virtualization, Nutanix, Citrix information. And definitely head over to citrix.com and nutanix.com for, the great things they're doing with, that we talked about today. So I absolutely love it. I wasn't exaggerating one little tiny bit. If anything, I downplayed my love for the two companies and the two solutions. So to me, it's a better way to compute. And that's what we're there for. We're there to provide a service to the end user, to our customers, right? Our customers being the people that come into work during the day and they don't care about IT, right? They just want to do they want to get their jobs done and go home, or they need to get their jobs done. And that's what we provide, a better way to do their jobs, a better way to compute. So with Citrix and Nutanix together, well, you can do that. And what more can you ask for? So what else do I say? But again, thank you guys all for listening to DABCC Radio.
CC?
DABC.
Say it again. DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again? DABCC.
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.